Hello and welcome to ABC News Special Edition. Today we will be interviewing a John Simpson Kirkpatrick, a World War I hero. Hello, I'm John Simpson Kirkpatrick and I'm very honoured to be on this show. Let's get started. Can you please explain to me about your childhood and family back in England? Well, as you know, I was born on July the 6th, 1892 at Shields Country, Durham, England, into a large family of 8 with my Scottish parents, Robert and Sarah. My father was a merchant seaman for 20 years before finally settling at South Shields. When I was younger, I worked each summer at Murphy's Fair, providing donkeys' ride for children, a penny a ride. Sometimes I looked after the donkeys from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Once that was done, I would ride 2 miles home. Unfortunately, a serious accident in 1904 left my father Robert incapacitated, and he sadly passed away in 1909. The death of my father led me to take on a series of jobs to help support the family. We believe you joined the Navy. What forced you to leave? I was only young when I joined the Navy, 17 in fact. The conditions upon the SS Yetto were so bad that me and 14 other merchants jumped the ship and deserted after we arrived at Newcastle. What was your main motive to join the army? Well, after my father's death, I travelled to Australia to try my hand at a manner of jobs. I carried a swag, worked at a cane cutter and a ship's hand and a coal miner. When I made sure I sent most of my payments back to my family in England, where I longed to return. When the war began, I believed, like many others, that I'd be going directly home to England. So, on the 25th of August 1914, I changed my name to John Simpson, for I feared a deserter would not be accepted into the army. I joined the Australian Imperial Force at Black Boy Hill Camp, Perth. Okay then, so why did you become a stretcher bearer? It was mainly because I was a big, strong lad, and, for me, it also meant that I could get back to England faster. Oh, I can see that. Please, explain to me what Gallipoli was like when you first landed there. I landed on Gallipoli with the covering force just before dawn, at around 5 a.m. on Sunday, April 1915. We had to leave from the boat and wade ashore. I was the second man in the water. The first and third man were killed. It was horrible there. Casualties on the first day were appalling. Of the 1,500 men in the first wave, 755 remained in active service. The remainder were killed or wounded. Those that did remain were badly affected by the shortage of food and particularly water in the subtropical sun. There was also a shortage of stretchers, medical equipment and supplies. Stretcher parties reduced from 6 men to 2. Me and the other stretcher bearers improvised as best as we could and worked all day tending to the wounded, carrying them down to the casualty clearing stations on the beach at Anzac Cove. It was nothing like what they advertised back in Australia. Okay then, so why did you become a stretcher bearer? It was mainly because I was a big, strong lad, and, for me, it also meant that I could get back to England faster. Very interesting. Now, you're generally referred to as a man with a donkey. Why is this? Since I had worked with animals from a very young age, I quickly befriended one in Anzac called Duffy to carry leg wound casualties to the dressing station. Day and night, me and Duffy worked cheerfully together amid fierce shrapnel fire and machine guns. Okay, now. I was commonly known as either Murphy, Scotty, Simmy, or simply the bloke with the donk. I understand. You were killed on May the 19th. Tell me about your last day. On May 19th, 1915, at 3 a.m, the Turks mounted a major counter-offensive attack, 45,000 Turkish troops attacked all along the front line with orders to drive the enemy to sea. By 11 a.m, 8,000 Turks lay dead and wounded in no man's land without capturing a single section of the trench. The great assault had finished and failed. The attack was called off. It was during the final fling of the attack I made my way up to the gully towards Courtney's post, where the fighting had been most furious. I picked up a wounded man, placed him on the donkey Duffy, and made my way back towards the beach. It was as I reached the very spot where General Bridges had been hit 4 days before that. Signaller D.M. Benson, who was dug in beside the track, shouted to me, "Watch out for the machine gunner. He's got a couple of blokes this morning already." I waved back in acknowledgement, grinning as usual, and continued my way. Moments later, the Turkish machine gun opened fire. I was hit in the back. The bullet passed through of my stomach, killing me instantly. The force of the bullet picked me up and threw me face down in the dirt. Davidson, Mahoney, and Langgout, amongst others, ran back to me, but it was too late. The wounded man on the donkey was wounded a second time. As he grasped the donkey's neck, he passed out. The donkey was frightened, and still with the wounded man on his back, ran down to his usual destination. Do you believe you had much of an impact on war? General, or in command, so we did not have such a big impact on war and who won. Although I do believe I impacted the war as I saved many lives. Apparently, my work was so valued I was allowed to operate separately, camping with my donkey at the Indian Mule camp. That's great. You've been nominated many times for awards, but not received one yet. How does this make you feel? It was sad knowing that though recommended and nominated, I received no bravery award. This was probably because I was not a proper soldier that served in battle, even though I had been to the front line. Although I was mentioned in orders of the day and dispatches, this makes me very happy. After my death, it was great to learn that I was involved in many children's stories and was well known across the country. My fame was that more interesting for the fact that unlike other celebrated figures from the campaign, such as Jacka, there had been many calls for me to be awarded retrospective Victoria Cross, and although I won no medals at Gallipoli, I am commemorated in paintings with a prominent bronze sculpture at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra. All of this is better than getting one lousy award, I would say. And finally, what is your opinion on the war? Even though the conditions were horrible, I still tried to make the most of the opportunity. Plus, all me mates had the conditions just a bit better. I loved my job. The fact that I saved 300 lives in 24 days made me feel very proud of myself. Patients often found it strange how I was always whistling and singing, but honestly, the war was better than that horrid Navy ship. However, I do not support the war as I believe it is a devastation that so many fellow me, just like me, lost my lives. However, I do not support the war as I believe it is a devastation that so many fellow men, just like me, lost our lives. Thank you, Mr. Simpson, for joining me on tonight's episode of Special Edition Interviews. And thank you, audience, for watching. Thank you for having me. It's been great fun.